I remember when Battlefront 2 ended its live support, and the reason why the live support ended, if you recall, was because they were going to put more developers into Battlefield 2042, because at the time, they were developing that game. And a lot of people were upset about that, but I understood their reasoning for it, because I'm like, okay, put it into their main game, that's their mainstay game. Battlefield is what made DICE popular in the first place to make Battlefront. I'm like, alright, you can work on your game, but I always assumed afterwards, like after Battlefield 2042 was released, they would put developers back into Battlefront 2, or make a new Battlefront game, like a Battlefront 3 or a spin-off game. But, as it turns out, I was wrong. Basically, there is no Battlefront 3 coming, no spin-off game. All of DICE, all the developers of DICE are focusing on Battlefield 2042. Of course they are. And I wanted to know why. So this past week, on and off, I've been looking up videos on Battlefield 2042, and what I discovered is quite interesting. So Battlefield 2042, the glitches in that game, and the bugs, are very similar to Battlefront 2. Now, Battlefront 2 is not a perfect game. It's a very glitchy game. But it's still a bit playable. It's a lot playable, even, from where it was when there was support. It's kind of funny how the game is fine now, but when Battlefront 2 was in live support, it was a broken mess. A lot of game-breaking bugs, which, yes, still happen in the game. There's still that state saber, like, lock-on. Whenever you get hit, your character freezes up and the opponent hits you. It's annoying. Yet people say this game is fine, but I disagree. But the glitches in Battlefront 2 are the same in Battlefield 2042. There's this helicopter thing in Battlefield 2042. It got really close to the ground, and it hit one thing and it clips through the floor. It's hilarious. Same thing happens in Battlefront 2. Basically, this game is using the same engine, Frostbite engine. Honestly, DICE should just get rid of the Frostbite engine. It does not work in these first and third person shooter games. If you don't know, the Frostbite engine is used to make the FIFA games, the soccer games, or as the Europeans call it, football, but it's soccer. It's used to make the soccer games, which that is kind of not good because that game is not really that intensive. But with Battlefront 2 and the Battlefield franchise, these games need to have better engine because they don't work in this realistic setting. I mean, yes, the game looks visually good, and that's the reason why EA keeps making these Battlefields and Battlefront games in the Frostbite engine, because they make the games look good, but gameplay-wise, it doesn't work. In the FIFA games, they work because the game isn't that demanding. You're basically on a helicopter view, I believe, controlling these soccer players. In Battlefield and Battlefront, there's all these different components going on. There's full-fledged battles going on. There's so much at stake, especially in the Battlefront franchise where you have heroes. This Frostbite engine does not work for those type of games. It needs a new engine, like the Unreal Engine, for example. Like Jedi Fallen Order was in the Unreal Engine, and that game works fine. There's very little bugs. Hell, even Star Wars shows use Unreal Engine. Why don't the Battlefield and Battlefront games get the Unreal Engine or another software to help make the glitches and bugs in terms of maps and player glitches that experience on a daily basis go away? Because these glitches, from what I've heard from other players in Battlefield 2042, it happens frequently, which is the same response that Battlefront 2 players got and Battlefield 5 players had when those games were in their prime. Or you could say Battlefield 5 is still in its prime because more people are playing that than the new installment. But I digress. The Unreal Engine is, in my opinion, a better source to make games rather than the Frostbite engine. And now I want to talk about DICE, because oh my god, DICE is not a good company. Now I know blame people on EA, but I'm putting DICE and EA under the same thing, because they do not care about their games. I've never seen a game company care less about their games. I'm pretty sure Rockstar cares more about the third re-release of GTA 5 than EA and DICE have for the Battlefield and Battlefront franchise. Literally, Battlefront is the most profitable game you can possibly make. Like, Star Wars is it's a franchise that you can make so much content out of, and they just don't care. How do you not care? EA is supposed to be about money. This is like the most ironic thing ever. A company that loves money does not want to put any more Battlefront out there because I guess it's not profitable. I don't know why. They literally have the developers make a game good. But even DICE, in my opinion, DICE should not make a Battlefront 3. I know people are saying, oh, DICE should make a Battlefront 3, but they shouldn't, and they're not, because DICE is putting all their effort into Battlefield 2042 because of the terrible state. The reason I'm talking about Battlefield is because it relates to Battlefront, because post titles are made by DICE, and they're just, honestly, DICE feels like a indie studio. They're made by like 3 people. Like, Battlefront 2 felt like 3 developers working on it, which that's not the case, because you have to have a lot of developers to make the maps and heroes and bug fixes, and it just felt like there's only 3 people, because they were just making content monthly. That would have been fine if every month there was a big update, but there wasn't. There is a notorious couple updates during the summer of 2019 where DICE took holiday off, and the updates for end of July, end of August were literally just like these milestone things to complete. Like a community milestone to get voice lines. Not even emotes, just voice lines. A very lazy way, but they were going on holiday, so they couldn't really focus on the game. So they left us with 2 months of basically nothing. But in June, I believe there was a giant big update, from what I can recall. I believe that was the Droideka update, which they had that big update. I love it, great update. But to literally the next update, there's nothing. It's extremely inconsistent with the updates. And not to say there's also delays with these updates, because they have so little few people. They have very little people. Because the reason why they have little people working on Battlefront 2, you may say why. DICE is this big company that has hundreds of developers. Why is Battlefront 2 so just lacking in developers making this game? That is because in early to mid 2018, it was reported that DICE, or EA and DICE, decided to pull like 80% of the developers from Battlefront 2 and put them into Battlefield 5 because that game was kind of dying and they needed that support to help the game out. Which you can say it kind of worked, I guess. I'm not saying it's a wrong thing to do, but having 80%, that seems like a high number. Honestly, I would have done 50-50. Just split the development team up. Battlefield and Battlefront should be the same level of concentration and focus. It shouldn't just be Battlefield should have all the focus. Battlefront should have the focus as well. And I don't know if I said this already, but DICE is not working on Battlefront 3, nor do I want them to. DICE is not capable of making a Battlefront game. Both Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2 both had terrible launches, Battlefront 2 being way worse, but both Battlefield 2015 just did not live up to expectations with terms of content. Like, Battlefront 2015 took a long time to get going, and even then the updates you had to pay money for, which in Battlefront 2 you did not. So, but even in Battlefront 2 there, the whole loot box scandal, and yes, it changed gaming, but at what cost? Because the game pretty much, you could say, died at that point. Like, honestly, no matter what they did, the game would always be this game that was meant to be like a casino, no matter what you did. To a point where all the cosmetics were free, which they shouldn't have done, but I guess there was no monetary value. But Battlefield 2042 is taking up all the space for the DICE developers. They are not working on Battlefront 3. I don't think they are. Honestly, it's kind of a shame, because Battlefront franchise is much better, in my opinion, than Battlefield. Battlefront has that charm, that whiz, that kind of spark that was relit when DICE made Battlefront 2015. It kind of recaptured that kind of like arcadey, like simple game feel. It's meant for casual people, and they did that well. And it's a shame that they're not going to make any more Battlefront titles in the long haul, because they're focused on Battlefield 2042. How can they make a Battlefront game if they're focused, all the developers are focused on this Battlefield game that they should just, like, scrap? Like, it just looks, honestly, I kind of agree with the fan base, just scrap the game. Give everyone a refund, and spend a couple years making the game. I'm not saying to scrap all of it, just scrap the live support. Go back to the drawing board, use the code that's in Battlefield 2042, and take a couple years off to make a new and improved Battlefield 2042. But they're not, because EA does not give a shit about the player base. I've never seen a company that just does not care about the player playing it. Like, why are they even in gaming then? They should honestly be in, like, the stock market, but EA, if they were to do that, they probably would have been sued, and the CEO would probably go to jail because of all the scummy stuff that they've been doing over the years. The whole loot box thing was the only thing that really got, like, really big in public. And that's because of Battlefront 2. But all the other stuff they do is just not really picked up by the mainstream media because they're just a video game development. They just make video games. They're not doing anything illegal or scummy. No, they're making video games. That's just entertainment. That's not scummy at all. No. But I'm going to stop myself here. I'm kind of getting ranty now because I am kind of pissed off with EA. Like, every time I talk about Battlefront 2 and the missed support, it gets me pissed off. And it's because it's true. Like, EA is just a company that doesn't care about games. Like, they don't. They just want money. But in order to get money, you need to make a good product. Because more people are going to buy that then, put more money into it. They can't seem to comprehend the basics of getting money. Yeah, that's all that they're about. It's mind-boggling. It's honestly mind-boggling. Like, I'm not into economics. I'm not into business. Yeah, I could see how to make more money from a game. Like, that's kind of sad. Than a AAA development company and billion-dollar company. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna go now. I ranted way too much in this. I'm going now, so goodbye, everyone.